Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Open Your Own Door podcast. I'm your host, Paige Espey. Today, I am just kind of letting loose. I'm so excited. I'm just so thankful that this podcast is into the world. We released it on Monday. I released 3 episodes and a trailer, and it is now Wednesday, I think. No, it's Thursday. No, it's Wednesday. I don't know what day of the week it is. It has been a whirlwind of a week since launching on Monday. And gosh, it's been the best few days that I can imagine, just because of all the messages that you all have sent me, all the deep conversations and just meaningful, heartfelt, really deep things that you all have told me about, and that I've just been back and forth with you all in DMs about. So I'm really just this episode, I mean, this is kind of like a bonus episode. It's just going to be very raw. I'm probably not even going to take the time to really edit it, but I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, I am blown away at the amount of responses. I have had people from all walks of life reach out to me over the past few days, and I just need you all to know, I ran into a friend in Hobby Lobby yesterday, and she was actually just so crazy that I ran into her in Hobby Lobby yesterday. I went to Hobby Lobby. I had an OB appointment, and because again, I'm having a baby literally in a week, they're inducing me 7 days from today. But I had an OB appointment, and I went to Hobby Lobby to get some things for the store, because I'm also in the process of trying to decorate the store for Christmas open house, because that is coming up so soon. And so anyways, I was there buying some ribbon and some things, and I saw her. And what is wild about seeing this one gal, and she'll know who she is when she listens to this, she was one of my very first customers, one of my very, very, very first Little Yellow Door customers. I remember she bought an orange velvet couch for me that I staged up in our living room in our old house. I literally had to rearrange my entire house just to stage this orange velvet couch. And she and her husband came and bought it for me and put it in their first house. And so it was just kind of a full circle moment that I saw her. And when I saw her, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I just got done listening to your," maybe it was the second episode. And she was like, "I feel like I just sat down and had coffee with you. I feel like I just had a conversation with you." And I literally stood there and talked to her in Hobby Lobby for 30 minutes. And we just talked about podcasting in general, and we talked about the shows, because she's a big podcast girly. And come to find out, we listened to a lot of the same shows. So we were sitting there hashing out, this person's baby, and when this person launched their podcast, and the people that we like to listen to. Literally, we knew all the same people, all the same show hosts we knew. And, she was like, "Well, that show's a little woo-woo for me, and this one's a little, can be a little bit too self-helpy for me." And so I don't know. I love connecting with people who love podcasts, because I love podcasts so much. And listening to podcasts every single day has been it's been the catalyst in my life that I feel like if it were not for shows that I listen to, I wouldn't know half of what I know in business. I wouldn't know half of what I know in the self-help world. It's part of my entire existence and my entire life is listening to shows and listening to people who have kind of walked ahead of me and walked before me in, a small business journey, or a motherhood journey, or a grieving journey, or, whatever the journey is. And so a couple days before I released my podcast, I kind of put out a poll on my Instagram just to ask, okay, out of all my followers, who actually listens to podcasts? And I was actually really surprised and really disheartened to see that so many people that follow me. I mean, a majority of the people who voted said that they do listen to podcasts, but it blew me away the number of people who said that they don't. And so I was talking to my husband about it the other night, and something that my husband has to remind me of all the time. Will has to say, "Paige, not everybody is you. Not everybody has the same brain as you. Not everybody is like you." And literally, for the past 3 days, I've just been like, "I cannot believe that so-and-so doesn't listen to podcasts. I just cannot believe that." And honestly, the reason that it is so bothersome to me is because I know how much the shows that I listen to have helped me in my life. And I know I just genuinely cannot picture my life and where it would be right now if I didn't have the shows and I didn't have the hosts that I tune into week after week. And so to hear, like, even so many of my like best friends say that they're just like not podcast people. Again, my husband constantly has to remind me, like, every day, not everybody is you, not everybody is Paige, not everybody is Paige Espey, not everybody, and he even said, he was like, Will said, I like podcasts. I just genuinely don't have the time, with being in and out of, a tractor or a cotton picker or at the cotton gin or what. He's like, I just genuinely don't have the time to sit down and listen to one. He was like, I like to listen to them. I just like, it's hard for me to find the time. And I think it's also so interesting to pay attention to people's podcasting habits. So like, for example, me, I'm the type of person, like, the literal moment that my children go somewhere else, whether that be with my mother-in-law or with Will or with the daycare, or like the moment that I am by myself, you would think that a really busy mom would just like take a deep breath. No, I turn on a show. It's like when my friend who I saw in Hobby Lobby, we were just like nerding out over this because, again, it's just such a huge part of my life. And, I have about 6 shows that I keep up with that I kind of circulate throughout the week, and I know what days they drop and all the things. So, the way that my weeks go is like when I drop off my kids at daycare or somebody, if my children go with someone else, I'm immediately turning on a show because it uplifts me. It kind of gets me in a headspace of like, okay, now I'm in my work. Now I'm in my kind of work mindset. Because a lot of the shows that I listen to are business and coaching and all that kind of thing and mindset. And, so like the moment that I switch out of mom mode is when I switch into like kind of business mode and work mode. And I feel like podcast is my way to like transition from one part of me to the next part of me. And it, because like when I'm in the shower, that was another thing I told Will. I'm like, what do these people do when they're in the shower? Do they listen to music? Do they just take showers in silence? Which is a good thing. You should take a shower in the silence. You should listen to music. You know what I mean? Again, not everybody is me. Not everybody just has a show just in their ear 24/7. But anyways, I am a huge podcast nerd. I have been listening, to shows since 2018, 2019. And so it just kills me that there's so many people out there that don't. You know what I mean? And so something that just struck me was the amount of people that said, I do not listen to podcasts, but I want to listen to yours. Like, there were so many people in my DMs saying stuff like that. And like, you have no idea how like honored that makes me feel. I also had someone say, I just get really overwhelmed with like the information overload. Like when you go to Apple Podcast and there's a podcast about parenting, but there's also a podcast about murder mysteries, and there's also a podcast about, gut health and hormones and business. And it's just like, where do you even start, And so I did have someone say, like, I'm so overwhelmed with the amount of content that I just can't even start anywhere. And so someone also told me, I feel like so many shows out there, it's like a quick, here's 5 tips for this. Here's 6 tips for how to wear the clean makeup on your face. Everything is like a hot take or a quick tip or 5 reasons you should do this, 10 reasons you should do this. And I think that people are just really tired and like really bogged down and really overwhelmed with content like that right now in this like information overload space that we find ourselves in, like with AI and just the way the internet is these days with TikTok and how quick everything is. Everybody's just sort of like, wow, there's a lot to consume all the time. And so some really encouraging messages that I received were like, this is a breath of fresh air. I feel like I'm actually sitting down and talking to a friend. You're actually talking about real things that actually matter and like pain points that like we as women and men, I mean, as always, I'm talking to men too, if you want me to talk to the men. majority, looking at Spotify and the ratings and like just the numbers and everything, a majority of the people listening to the show are women. So, the things that women are struggling with and that we're not talking about, that we are sweeping under the rug, that was another thing that so many people said to me in messages. They said the part where you talked about the way people are like, we're just raised and conditioned from a long line of women who are just sweeping things under the rug because, they didn't want to let other people in and like allow other people to realize that their family was struggling or that their mental health was struggling or whatever. And it just, again, I just can't say thank you enough. I can't ramble enough about how blessed I am. I kind of think about my business and like the happiest days of my business and like the days that stand out to me as a small business owner. And obviously, like the grand openings of my store, the grand opening of my first storefront was such a wonderful day. The reopening of my storefront that's in Pete's Body Shop was like actually like one of the best days of my entire life. It was just the sweetest, most wholesome day, and I worked so hard for it. Another kind of, it was like, I don't know, not kind of happy day, but like when I released my ebook, that was a really good day. But like this day where I released my podcast, it just, I don't know how to explain it. And you know what the wild thing is like I didn't do anything super fancy. I remember on the day that I released my ebook, I was home by myself. And this is something that I actually learned on a podcast, is that like when you are working, if you're a creative person and you're working so hard on something for so long behind the scenes, and it's like something that's released digitally, a lot of the time, like nobody else cares except for you. Like, it's like the tough love comes out, and it's like, to be honest, like nobody, especially if you're working on something really hard behind the scenes, behind your screen, and it's not like a physical thing, like a storefront or whatever, it's like nobody really cares about launch day the way that you do. And so I can remember when I launched my ebook back at like last November, like almost a year ago, which if you don't know, I wrote an ebook. It's like 165 pages long, and it's all about how to resell vintage. So it is just literally everything I know about how to buy and sell and profit from a vintage reselling business. So I can link that in the show notes if anyone is interested in that type of content. But last November when I released that, there's a fly in here. I like woke up that day and I treated it like a grand opening. I like got ready. I like curled my hair, like as I should, you know what I mean? As I should celebrate my wins. I should take the time to be proud of myself, especially after working so hard on something. But for whatever reason, on this podcast launch day, I just kind of like took things a lot slower, and I didn't wake up and I didn't put on makeup and I didn't curl my hair and I didn't look cute. It was literally a day just like any other day. And I woke up and honestly, the day was a little bit mundane, if you want me to be honest. I woke up and I had to pay a lot of bills. If you've followed me and you know that like I'm the type of person, I will let mail pile up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, like I should probably tackle that mail. And so that was what Monday was. I woke up and I tackled all of my mail. I paid all of my bills. And then like Will came home for lunch and he was like, how's the launch going? And I was like, it's going really good. Like I've gotten so many responses from people, like so many heartfelt messages. And like he was asking like who all has reached out, who all has said stuff, and just, kind of rehashed it with him around lunchtime. But like, honestly, that day on launch day, I was on my phone all day long responding to messages, because if you want me to be honest, like it is so important to me to respond to your messages, because like I've listened to podcasts and shows in the past where like the host will say, shoot me a DM on Instagram or like shoot me an email and like we can talk about XYZ. And like there have been some hosts that I have loved their shows, and when I send them a message like telling them, pouring my heart out, telling them how much I love their show, they don't respond. And it just kind of like, it gives me the ick. And I know that every working person out there has to have boundaries around DMs and messages and emails and stuff, but it was just so important to me to like take the time to read each one of your messages and to actually respond in a way like I was responding to a friend, because whether you're the person who reached out and said, I also come from a family with a parent who is an addict, which therefore makes me feel like I am less worthy. I was always I had people say I was so embarrassed growing up knowing that, my mom or my dad was an alcoholic or was addicted to pills or, whatever. And like, it just, as an adult, it does make you feel a lot less as a child. And, going into adulthood, it makes you feel less worthy because someone said, like, I felt like they were always choosing the substance over their relationship with me. And, as we all know, addiction is a disease. It's like a chemical imbalance in your brain. And, I don't know. Again, every single part of my story, I feel like reached and touched a lot of people because there were a lot of different parts of my story. So whether you were the person who has a parent who struggles with alcoholism, or you were the person, you were the girl in high school who struggled with the competitive undereating and you never, ever, ever spoke about it. Like the unspoken competitive undereating in high school, so many people struggled with that, but they've never talked about it. Or, the mom who reaches out and says, hey, I actually quit my job as an RN 2 years ago to be a stay-at-home mom, and I've never felt validated in my decision until now, until listening to your show. I never felt validated, and that I was like, people were proud of me for quitting to stay home with my kids. There's this whole wording going around of like people saying, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And it's like, no, like you're not just a stay-at-home mom. Stay-at-home moms do the absolute most. And just, or if you're the person who, I had some speech moms reach out to me, like moms of kids who are in speech therapy, and they reached out to me saying like, I've always kind of felt a disconnect, or I've always felt a frustration with the system when it comes to speech pathology and like, the therapy that my kids have been in, but I've never had the language to express my frustrations. And just like, you guys, every part of my story like touched and reached someone. There was someone who reached out to me and said, I've had a lot of questions about my faith. And hearing you talk about how you went to your pastor with your Bible open with, scriptures highlighted saying like, well, this is confusing. I feel like this is contradicting. I feel like this is not sitting well with me, or this is sitting well with me. And I just want to figure out how it all connects. Like she said, you've really encouraged me to reach out to my pastor. And just countless stories like that. The amount of like my own friends who have messaged me and said, that I knew about a lot of parts of your story, but I also didn't know about certain parts of your story. Like one of my best friends from college reached out and said, I had no clue that you moved to Memphis 2 or 3 times when you were little. Like you bounced around so much between the time you were born to the time you were like 7. You bounced around so many times and I had no idea. I just thought you were like born in Memphis and raised in Memphis until you were 7. Like another one of my best friends, and it just like the show sparked so many conversations with strangers, with customers, with followers, longtime followers, people who just found me. And it also sparked conversations with some of my really closest people. Like some of my really closest friends have said things like, we ended up having really deep conversations the day that I launched it, or the day that they listened to the episodes, just for them to like rehash and kind of like relive the things that we went through, specifically like talking about our friend who passed away in high school. The amount of messages that I receive from people saying like, it just blows my mind that you and your friends went through that when you were 18 years old, and like you went to college 9 months later. And again, if you have not listened to episode 1, I tell my entire story, the adversities that I've faced, all the deaths that have occurred in my life. I also get into it at episode 2. And then episode 3 is more like, I cover my pregnancy and just like kind of where I think my business is headed. Also, just sorry, there's like someone at my house right now and I'm not really sure what's happening. I'm not really sure what's happening. I think it's the bug guy maybe coming to spray. I don't know. My dog is probably gonna completely go berserk in just a moment. So please be prepared for that. Because again, I wasn't really planning on editing this episode, but anyways, maybe we'll pray that she won't lose her mind and start barking. But anyway, so sorry that made me totally get off track. But all I'm saying is that I thank you so much for your messages. I thank you so much for your kind words. I also just kind of want everyone to know that I held back like kind of a lot when it comes to, you know, certain relationships within my family and just a lot of the dynamics that I am still dealing with and problems that I'm dealing with today. And I mean, because there's still so many things that I deal with, you know, day in and day out today that I didn't really talk about because, you know, what's crazy is like part of me when I got on the mic the first time was like, you know what? Like, I'm about to just unleash and like talk some mad shit about all the people who have hurt me in my life. Like, I'm like, middle fingers in the air. Like, I don't even care. I'm about to just like unleash because I mean, again, I still have a lot of anger and a lot of like hurt around so much that has happened to me in my life and that is still happening in my life with just people in my family. And, you know, but I was like, you know what? Like, that's not going to help anybody. That's not going to serve anyone. You know, I mean, but it is so interesting. This is what I was telling my best friends. It's so interesting, like getting on this microphone and kind of like balancing being like a buttoned up professional gal, but also like completely being myself and like making sure that I'm being authentic so that you guys trust me and you believe in what I'm saying and you know you don't think I'm making anything up or adding any fluff. But I mean, I did leave out so much. Just I mean, you know, there's specific stories of things that have happened that like I'm not gonna get into on a microphone where it could reach literally anyone and everyone in the world. I mean, now if you meet me in person or you know me and you ask me questions, in person, like I likely will not hold back. I like, again, when I saw my friend in Hobby Lobby yesterday, I was like, let me tell you what I think about this, and this person and this relationship. Like, I was like, just let me tell you. Because again, I'm not here to like sweep things under the rug. I'm not here to not talk about things. I'm here to chat. I'm here to yap. I'm here to unpack, and I'm not afraid to talk about things with people in person. But also, I thought this was kind of a blessing in the weeks leading up to me releasing this show. I actually listened to a podcast episode with, I think it was Jenna Kutcher, which like she's the Gold Digger podcast. It's a podcast that I love, that I've listened to for a long time. She was interviewing Jen Hatmaker, and I've heard a couple of interviews with Jen Hatmaker recently. Jen Hatmaker is not somebody that I didn't even really know who she was. I didn't follow her. Like, I hadn't like read anything about her, but I quickly learned a little bit about her story. So Jen Hatmaker sort of like in her 40s, I think. I mean, she was married to her husband for a really long time. They ended up getting a divorce. Like, I think it was kind of maybe a nasty divorce, just from what I've gathered, like 5 years ago. And she's really like completely just done a 180 and like rebranded herself. She came from a super like religious sort of space. And you know, I think she had written books, and you know, she basically branded herself around certain belief systems that she held. But then as she got older and after she went through her divorce, she realized, like, I don't really believe some of the things that I thought I believed. And you know, I think her whole world just came crashing down. And so, you know, she evolved and she changed, as we should as humans. And so basically, she got a divorce 5 years ago that was kind of messy, and she just now like wrote a book about it. And so she's being like interviewed on all these shows, and people are asking her about her pivot and her switch and her branding and all that stuff, and just like her messaging and how she's changed over the years. And people have asked her, like, why are you writing a book about your divorce that you went through 5 years ago? Like, why are you just now coming out to like say all these things? And Jen was very much like, I promise you, you did not want me to write this book 5 years ago. Like when I was in the thick of it, when I was in the mess of it, like I promise you did not want me to write anything about it, because it would have been very nasty. It would have been very ugly. It would have been very hate filled, and it would have helped and served no one. And so she was like, here I am 5 years out, and I'm finally able to talk about it. And I'm finally able to kind of like come down from like her anger, and she's healed a lot from some things. And so basically she was saying, because I think she just wrote a new book, and she was saying in the new book, I wanted to make sure that whatever I put in there, I would still be proud of what I said 5 years from now. And because she was like, these people that I'm writing about, this is my family. And these are people that, I'm still going to be having Christmases with in 10 years, 15 years. These are people that I'm still going to be making memories with 15 years down the road. And, it's not just going to be, I'm not just going to lay every single last detail out there for the world to hear. Because, books and book launches, they come and they go. Podcast launches, they come and they go. You don't really want to, just completely burn all the freaking bridges just for, attention or clickbait or whatever. It's like you still have like a level of integrity that you have to maintain, and like you still have relationships that you have to maintain. And that's kind of how I feel, I mean, yeah, if you're a person who knows me personally, like, the things that I've been through, but it's like, it's just not necessary to just, all I'm trying to say is I held back a lot. So like, if you thought my story was a lot, there was a lot of stuff that I left out. And also I went back and I combed through the first 3 episodes probably 15 times. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to the first 3 episodes, because I was like, oh, okay, I need to edit this part out. Oh, I need to add this part. I need to not talk such mad crap about this person, like, because again, talking crap is not serving anyone. And so anyway, I wanted you guys to know that like I put a lot of time and thought and energy and effort into wording what I said in a proper way, into combing through it to make sure that I was still maintaining, a level of integrity that I would be proud of in 5 years. And that was just really important to me. But anyways, so back to my launch day. So I spent the entire day, literally the entire day, on my phone, answering messages. I was like power texting people about certain parts of my story. Again, I mean, I'm not going to go over every single like message and, example that somebody sent me, but another one of my friends sent me a message that was like, the part where you said that you are just now getting to a place where you feel safe enough to ask certain trusted people in your family, like certain questions about your childhood. She was like, I am also just now getting to a place where I feel safe enough to ask certain questions about my childhood, because again, like maybe you might not have wanted to know the answer, or like the answer might hurt you too much, or, And so anyway, I spent the entire day in really deep conversation with people. And so at one point, I also like had to go to the store, and I mean, time marches on. I still had business tasks that I had to take care of on Monday. I had to ship a couple of orders. I had to go to the post office. I had to go like pay taxes, like property taxes. I mean, like I also was like cleaning and processing some new inventory. I even posted like a quilt and a chair on my stories on Monday. And honestly, like, if I'm being totally honest, that felt it felt weird. Like, it's like after getting this huge project into the world and like releasing my story, it's like, I feel like I was like unleashing my story out into the universe. And then I was like, here's this chair for sale. Like I just felt so kind of silly and so trivial. And so it felt a little hollow. And which like the quilt sold, but the chair has not sold yet. If anybody wants the chair, no, I'm joking. But like, you get what I'm saying? It's almost like I feel like I unlocked this whole like new level of myself with this podcast release. And then just to like go back to being like, oh, hey, here's this chair for sale. It just felt kind of silly. And so again, I don't know what that means. I don't know where that's heading me. I don't know where that's leading me, because I do still love vintage furniture and I love art and design, and I still love all those things. I'm just figuring out how they all kind of mesh and blend together right now. But anyway, so sometime in the afternoon after I had like run a bunch of errands, I, again, had been on the phone all day, messaging people, texting people, I even had like a lot of friends call me. I had friends call me like on Monday to be like, girl, what? Just like to unpack some things. And so at one point I was like, okay, ew, I've got to put my phone down. I have been on my phone this entire day. I have literally walked around with this black device attached to my fingertips the entire day. So I was like, I need to go on a walk. Like I need to just go on a walk. I need to really sit with myself and think about like what this day really means to me. Because again, like the release of a podcast might not mean something to a lot of other people, but to me, it was a huge milestone that I needed to like rehash in my own brain, and I needed to sit with and process. So we have some woods behind our house, and the woods lead to Will's parents' house and his aunt and uncle's house. And so anyways, I was like, I'm leaving my phone in my home on the charger, and I'm gonna go for a walk. It was also like a beautiful day on Monday, beautiful fall day. So I go for a walk, and I just like it was a very peaceful walk. I kind of like spent it talking to myself, and just that's something I'm also learning how to do instead of constantly having, the earbuds which by the way, I don't listen to podcasts with earbuds. Like one of my best friends texted me that morning. She was like, I'm looking for my earbuds. Like I want to listen, but I can't find my earbuds. And I'm like, I don't even listen with earbuds. Like when I listen to a podcast, I just turn it on. Like no matter where I'm at, I just hit play. Like I'm like, I don't do earbuds. I may plug it into my phone. I mean, into my car when I'm in my car. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect for me to just like hit play and listen to a show. But anyways, I was like, I'm going to go for this walk. I'm going to be quiet with myself. I'm going to reflect with myself. I'm not going to like listen to another podcast or whatever. I just really need this time for myself. And so I went on a walk, and it was so great. And I was just reflecting. And when I got back, it was about the time that I like needed to go pick up the boys and, kind of switch back into mom mode. I had been in this launch business podcast, messaging people all day mode. And when I'm around my boys, I really tried not to be on my phone very much. Like I saw somebody post something the other day that said like, it was like a reel or something. And it was like, the way that parents smoked cigarettes around their children in like the 90s, most parents aren't doing that anymore. And it's so funny because this week I was watching like Casper with my son, and like literally every scene someone's smoking a cigarette, because that movie was from the 90s. Someone's smoking a cigarette in like every scene. And so this reel said something along the lines of like, phones are the new cigarettes. Like in 10 or 20 years, we're going to look back and see all these photos of us with our phones in our hands, and we're going to be like so mortified because, I mean, we're also finding out that like the waves of, just whatever is emitted from our phones causes cancer and just all this stuff. And so same way with cigarette. But basically what I'm saying is I don't like to be on my phone just a ton when I'm around my kids. Like I will even like sneak off to another room to respond to a message. Instead, I try not to sit just like on my phone in front of my kids. Anyway, so that night I was really trying to just like be present with my kids, not respond to as many messages. And then, I went to bed. I responded to a bunch of messages right before bed. And then, because again, I've tried to be so intentional with how I message everyone back. And if I haven't, like, I think I've messaged everyone back. I really, really do think I've messaged everyone back. But if I have not, I'm sorry. Send me another message and I will respond to you. But anyway, so then the next morning, so Tuesday morning, I woke up and I could just tell again, I needed to sit with myself and I needed to process and be alone and I needed to like document the whole launch and I needed to like write down my feelings. And so I woke up pretty early, probably like 4:30 a.m. Again, I'm very pregnant. Insomnia is a real thing right now. So I grabbed my journal and I came out here in my sunroom and I just like started writing all of my feelings and all my emotions around the show and just like hashing out all the messages and like conversations that I had had. And so I'm actually going to read you what I wrote in my journal that morning. It was so we launched the podcast. I say we, LOL. It's definitely just me. Definitely just me. Don't have a team right now. Would love a team to edit my episodes. But it's just me right now. But anyway, so that morning I woke up and so I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read, this is my little journal. I'm a big journaler again. My husband always tells me, you cannot get mad at people because they're not just like you. You cannot be frustrated with people because not everybody has the same brain as you. But again, if you're not a journaler, what are you doing? If you're not a podcast girly, what are you doing? I'm just like, I legitimately would not be like a functioning, like healthy, mentally stable human being if I did not listen to podcasts and if I did not like do my devotionals and if I did not go on my little mental health walks and if I did not do my little mental health journaling. Like if I didn't do all these things, there is no telling where I would be in this life and in this world. Like, I would definitely not be on this microphone talking to you right now. I definitely wouldn't be a business owner. There's just so many things that I do in my life that I'm like, I wish other people had these tools and I wish other people were also doing these things because then maybe they wouldn't be so miserable. Anyways, okay. Sorry, I got on my soapbox. Okay. So I'm going to read you what I wrote. Okay, 10/21/25. This was at like 4:35 in the morning. I finally did it. I finally started my podcast. I seriously can't believe it. And yesterday was such a beautiful launch day. Nothing fancy, no big celebrations. I didn't even put on makeup or cute clothes yesterday, but it was beautifully simple. I took the boys to daycare at 9 and I picked them up at 3. I went on a walk in the woods without my phone. I read and responded to so many beautiful messages. I cried at several of the messages. One woman told me that the episodes helped her understand her 20-year-old daughter better and that she's going to try to start therapy and encourage her daughter to start therapy. So many people saw glimpses of themselves in my story. They felt seen and understood by someone. In a world that is so digital right now, everyone operating from behind a screen, everyone only showing their highlight reels. I think that so many of us, mainly women, are so desperate to look a certain way or appear a certain way to other people. No one wants to admit there are dark things going on beneath the surface. Whether a listener saw herself in my body image struggles, or the worthiness struggles, or the addiction struggles, the important thing is that she felt seen. I feel like I literally opened a new chapter and opened a new door to my story and how I'm supposed to help others. Again, goes to show how important it is to get quiet with yourself. See, I could feel and sense that I was supposed to be offering more to the world outside of just vintage and decor and links and cute products. But I had to dig deep and get quiet. I had to turn inward to really figure out what that next step was. But the sad thing is that so many of us are too busy trying to manage the busyness and the craziness of our lives and the craziness of our schedules that we never carve out the quiet time. We never check in to ask, is this even working for me? Is this even serving my family or those around me? Is it good for my mental health? If I would have never taken that solo trip to the beach back in June, this podcast would have never happened. I would have never gotten still enough for long enough to be able to reflect and listen and pray, meditate, and journal. I'm just sitting here thinking of all the beautiful things that are going to come out of this podcast. I'm thinking of all the meaningful messages and conversations and exchanges that have already happened in just 24 hours. And it's all so beautiful and needed in this world right now. And what if it would have never happened? What if it would have never happened? What if I would have never slowed down long enough to recognize this calling? What if I would have continued to stay busy and continued to ignore this pull? A lot less people would feel seen. A lot less people would feel heard. So many women would have continued to feel alone. We are not alone in this life. We experience things, hardships, adversity, and if we allow it, the rubble can bring... Sorry, couldn't read my own writing. If we allow it, the rubble can bring about the most beautiful parts of our lives. Not to sound cheesy, but if we can muster a tiny ounce of positivity, the ashes can slowly form something better than we would have ever even been able to craft or plan for ourselves. Yesterday, I feel like I truly opened a whole new door. Again, not to be cheesy, but I feel like I truly unlocked a part of myself and a portion of my journey that will only continue to grow from here. It just feels so right for me to be talking to women about finding who we really are meant to be amongst the chaos and the heartbreak that may be happening in our inner world. I just can't stress enough the importance of going somewhere alone, whether it be to your dining room at 5 a.m. in the morning with a journal or on a walk in the woods. Just get quiet and turn off the noise. Our phones are so loud, so much energy and information 24/7. I mean, I even just yesterday was glued to mine because I wanted to make sure I responded thoughtfully to each message. But I know myself well enough, because I get quiet with myself often, to know that I needed some journal time this morning. So here's to getting to know ourselves so that when a dream comes knocking, that we are actually quiet and present enough and available enough to hear it and to be able to answer the call. Was that a poem? Maybe it was. I don't know. But anyways, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm going to get emotional. Okay. I need to get off this microphone because I'm going to start crying. Thank you. That's all I can say is thank you. Continue to share, continue to leave reviews, continue to send me messages. And I'm so pumped. I'm so excited about where this is going. And I just pray that it continues to help people. I pray that, just one thing will continue to lead to another. And just, open your own door, yo. That's all I got to say is open your own door. Thank y'all for listening. I said this was going to be a short thank you, wrap up in a nice bow episode, and it's 45 minutes long. But I love you all, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Might have a baby the next time. Who really knows? Okay. I love y'all. Bye.